Beautiful May spring morning. Today is Sunday, May 2nd, 2021, and I've decided to shoot garden videos again this year. I initially thought I wouldn't have the time to do that, but this has been such a strange time, and I just felt that this is something I can do and share, especially with my family and friends back home in India, because we're all going through such a terrible time right now, and we can all do with something positive, something cheerful, something that brings hope for the coming months, even though the pandemic is ravaging my country of birth back home. So this is for everybody back home in India. This is my garden. It's beginning to come back to life now with the weather warming up, and I'll start from the beginning. So here's my little greenhouse which I put here last year, and it's been very handy. I've been able to start a lot of little plants in there, including repurposing these plastic trays that I get basil and salad in from the grocery store to grow some microgreens and some things in the back. The cilantro patch is doing well. It's come back really nicely, and I've already been harvesting lots of cilantro for the Indian recipes and meals that I make. This is my other little patch, and it has a couple of volunteer sunflower plants. These were actually growing in other spaces, and I pulled them out very carefully, potted them for a little while until the roots became stable, and then replanted them in these corners. And it would be amazing if these grow big and strong here and sort of create a boundary for this little trellis growing space. And because sunflowers are so prolific, once I have planted one here, it's almost guaranteed that I'll have volunteers in growing in the same space next year. There's a kale seed that took off that's growing here, and also some radishes that I had planted somewhat thickly in one space, but I'll thin them out later if needed. I've put down some peas all along the cinder blocks as always, and I've redesigned this space from last year, so now it has a fire pit as well as a little bit more growing space. So I have these two tomato plants growing here as well as in an identical space over there, and then I've bordered those with nasturtiums that I put down as seeds, and they're all really looking happy in their space. I have some mint growing in 3 different grow bags. Again, I use mint a lot, including in my morning chai. So I've already started harvesting these and putting them in my morning chai. These are my 2 fur babies sitting on this soft chadar and enjoying the weather. And I have some herbs here that I had planted a couple of years ago, and that have become perennial here. So I have rosemary, oregano. This space has some puna kira seeds in it, which is now 3 years old, those seeds. So I put them in thickly and keeping my fingers crossed that at least some of them will sprout. Same thing over here. Right, and we'll see how it goes. So this is the other spot, and look, it'll be easier to see from the other side, but I have these 2 composting bins, and for obvious reasons anything that I plant between these 2 composting bins really thrives, and you can already see that because I have peas that I had put in earlier in the season, and they've all sprouted. My hope is that they will grow along this metal trellis. So this is the other side. You can see more clearly now how well things are growing in this space. I have some kale along with the peas, and some more radishes that I had planted here from seed. fern that's volunteered from last year's fern, and some chives that are growing over there, and of course those peas that are growing thickly in that corner. My strawberries are going on year 4 now, I think, and last year at the end of the season I just put a whole bunch of twigs and leaves that I had cleaned from other parts of the garden on top, and all the old strawberry plants died out and mulched the soil further, and this is all new growth. These are all new strawberry plants growing thickly in this space, so I didn't really have to do much. It was actually fairly easy. I've got some onions going in this place, and I have put down some beans also, and some lettuce. I think it's butter lettuce that has come from the seeds I had just thrown in there at the end of the growing season last year, hoping that some of it would germinate, and it did. This is really spicy. I thought it was arugula, I'm not sure now. It does have those yellow flowers, so it could be mustard. And I've let these grow, go to seed, go to flowers, let them flower, and I've been harvesting the leaves and putting them in stir fries, etc. It's really, really good. So some of the stuff needs to be taken out. This has definitely gone to seed, and that's perfectly okay. Even with the pods, they are edible while they're still soft. I've finally been able to grow a leek successfully for the first time ever, and again, I just put in a lot of things at the end of the growing season last year, hoping that some of them would germinate. I've put beans in this space. I did that yesterday, and again the idea is that they'll grow along this flexible trellis that I've put in here. I put that in last year, yeah. And then there are some baby radishes that are popping up, different kinds again in different spaces. I put those radishes in my salad. My dogs love them, so I grow them as much as I can. Some more chives growing in here, and again I'm growing a lot of chives because I actually use them regularly in the dishes I make in my kitchen, so it makes sense to grow them. This is red mustard, and this has really amazed me. Look at the size of those leaves. If I put my hand against it, you can see just how big they are, and they're called sarson in Hindi. So I'm planning to make sarson ka saag soon, because some of these have started blossoming with the heat that's coming in. So now is the right time to use them as much as I can before the leaves become too bitter. Right, so everything is fairly thriving. Another volunteer sunflower, and there's a couple more over there. So this space is going to be covered with nice tall sunflowers, hopefully. I've got some of my grow bags in, and this has mammoth basil seeds in it, so I'm really hoping that at some point this will be filled with mammoth basil leaves. More peas, plus I have put in some melon seeds in there. This is melon heart of gold that I grew from seed, and there were 2 of them that grew closely together, so I just put them in, and then I might thin them later depending on which one is healthier. A volunteer fennel, and then just rows upon rows of seeds. Peas, some of them are growing really well and some are still struggling, but the ones that don't really take off, I'll just fill that space with other things. So here's another view of the garden. It's a lovely day, sunny and breezy, not too hot, not too cold, just perfect. I have onions and garlic that I had planted in November last year that have all sprouted. I've already been harvesting 1 to 2 every week and using them in the kitchen fresh. More radishes growing in here, cilantro that came back, and then carrots. So I have 2 patches of carrots. This one and this one over here. And again, I've been harvesting as I need them. Hey, so everything's just looking really good. I have some volunteer lemon balm that's growing thickly in this space, and of course this is medicinal. So once I start making lemonade, Indian lemonade, or shikanji as we call it, I'm gonna start putting more of the lemon balm seeds in there, leaves in there. Right now I'm just harvesting a couple at a time and chopping them up finely and putting them in my salads if I want to. I have potatoes in all of these grow bags. I did get the seed potatoes from Amazon, so I'm it's fingers crossed. I hope that they all sprout. If not, then I'll figure something out and I'll put something else in here, maybe sweet potatoes that I have been saving from last year. This is my one Swiss chard plant that has survived the winter. The moles, the family of moles that live here and did demolish all the other Swiss chards I grew last year. This one's growing strong, and again, I usually harvest like one leaf at a time because it's doing so well and it's so big to use in stir fries as needed. Some more bags filled with 1 or 2 potatoes each, whole, not cut up, because that's just more work. And last year I had a really nice crop of harvest of potatoes without doing the usual cutting and curing, I think that's what it's called. I have herbs growing on the other side of the fence, and this year I put down some nasturtium leaves on this side as well, because I'd love to see them grow up this trellis and fill the space up with their pretty blossoms. The oregano is really thriving in this space, so it's the thyme, the variegated sage. I have chives growing all along the cinder blocks, sage, more thyme, lavender. It's become a bush by now, and the rosemary that I planted next to the lavender a year later after I planted the lavender is also thriving. So all in all, the garden has taken off and it's doing really, really well, which makes me very happy. Thank you for watching. One more final thing. These are all the seeds I had started, and as you can see, 50% success rate. On the right hand side are the ones that have all sprouted. There are baby seedlings in there, baby plants in there. I'm just waiting for them to grow a little bit more before I start putting these in the ground. On the left hand side, empty containers, nothing much growing, and that's perfectly all right. Life is like that. I'm going to reuse this soil and then save the containers to grow things in last year. So all in all, it looks like it's going to be a good year as far as the garden is concerned. One last bit, I just had to get that in. That is one happy fur baby. Right, Chicky? Hi, Chiku. Good girl.